The fear factor that surrounds cancer, nobody's trying to minimize the fear factor by removing the mystique of the cancer thing.
Yes.
For example, the very first research that was done, the first clinical trial, which was done by Dr. Wahlberg in 1924.
Yes.
Why is that not a documentary that's shown on television? They gave him a Nobel Prize for this. Why wouldn't they broadcast these findings that they have about the nature of cancer?
And why do you think that is?
Well, they're the best one to answer that question. All I'm saying is that, in my opinion, that would be helpful.
Yes.
If they made an attempt
because
to explain.
If it's not, then one would think doubt.
It's almost like the public have no sense to understand these things.
Well, that's one.
I don't know what is. I can't say why they're not doing it.
Well, I would want to doubt something that's not broadcast enough. It's not big enough, so I'm not going to talk about it enough. The alternative health and all the people who've done lots of good work, like yourself. You're an author and researcher, and you're bringing the information to us. People didn't hear much about your book. Some people are hearing about it for the first time, Demystifying Cancer, and we say, why is it not out there? Why is these things?
Okay, let's take an example. The point I make about the number one disease that kills children between 1 and 14 is cancer.
Yes.
When I did the research, that information was based on America.
Right.
And I saw the caution. People said, listen, don't be misled thinking America is like, because people like this, America eat all of these big jumbo stuff, junk food and all that, so that's unique to them.
Right.
Then, right now as we speak, one of the London buses, I even have a picture of it. I wish I had found it before. Well, then again, I don't know if I could put that in the book, but in terms of the picture. But the picture has the same point, that cancer is the number one cause of death of children.
What is that advertised on the bus?
It's advertised on the bus.
Okay.
And it's got these two or three kids on it.
Right, okay.
And right across the bus, at the front and the side and the back. Mm-hmm. They actually tell you that. And then they're asking for £3 a month.
Okay.
So I'm saying, all of them. So here it is now, a point that has come up that's by anybody's standard. This should be like unusual. This should be like shocking.
Right.
So you say, well, and then when I do the research, I recognize that this has not been there. Just like how the cancer epidemic took off over 100 years ago, just roughly. Before that, there was the cancer thing was not even, according to one source, wasn't even in the textbook.
Right.
Cancer wasn't even such a big deal, so maybe over 150 years ago. So it was in textbooks. So it's just about that time that some shift in the way we conducting ourselves caused this thing to happen.
Right.
Now, the children thing kick off in about the 60s or thereabouts, I think, if I remember correctly. The question is, if this is true, and people have documented this, why would they just restrict themselves to say, well, this is what killed the number one cause of cancer, death of children, give us £3? Why not then use that opportunity to explain why children are suddenly die of cancer?
Yes.
Why haven't they gone into that one?
Well, they may not have thought of it that way. So now that you're actually mentioning it and the people are listening,
But sure, they must know that if something has not been the norm for a long time and it starts to happen, you'd have to hold me. Why is this thing happening?
Yes.
And then explain that to people. Say, hold on a minute. The children are dying because
Well, people are not asking questions as well. They're getting the information here and people don't ask questions. That might be another thing, because people are being told this is red. You might say, well, you might question, oh, this is red, why is it red? The sky is blue, why is it blue? People maybe want to ask these questions, and because one know the questions are not going to be asked, people can just accept what's thrown at them.
But I just find it incredible that they themselves, if they are sincere about helping people, wouldn't the first thing to say, if that happened and that's your business, you don't do anything else, this is your business, you do 23 every day,
and you're aiming to help,
and your aim is to help people, and you come across this thing, as I said, they've been in business for 100 years or more, 112. So clearly, during that 100 years that they're in business, they would have been tracking the development of cancer.
Yes, and boasting it as well. Yes.
There's no way they wouldn't have known exactly when this thing with children start, and then link it to some change in activity or something to say, well, this is why we think children are suddenly getting cancer.
Yes.
And therefore broadcast that to the general public, because prevention is better than trying to cure something, but that's not their business. For by their action, that is. I'm saying it's not their business, because if it was their business, they'd be telling the public, this is what has happened, why we now see the increase in cancer death in children. This is what has happened, and you need to change up what you're doing. But that is not happening. So people can come to their own conclusion.
So it's coming like there's some kind of secret as to why this is
people
kept.
come to their own conclusion.
People come to their own conclusion.
Because I'm saying they can go on Google and Google the number one cause of the number one disease that kills. Google something like that and see what comes
But
up.
it's lots of information. Which
Google that and say you will see exactly what I'm saying because it's on the internet.
It's lots of information, and it's a massive puzzle. And so where you're putting all these pieces together so people can see that, you know, what is in your interest is not what you're thinking. You see what I mean? You know, there's people not looking out for you. You know,
they don't seem to be.
You are the guinea pig, technically speaking. So with all this information you're bringing together, you're saying to people, here is the information. Think about it. I'm spelling it out for you.
And the point is this: because the system been at what it's been like for over 100 years.
Yes.
And in that time, they have grown and grown and grown and grown, bigger and bigger and wealthy and wealthy and wealthy. So they become.
Are we talking about the organizations?
We're talking about the pharmaceutical industry,
okay, yes,
which is the driving force behind all of this. They have become bigger and bigger and bigger. One of the most lucrative industry in the world.
Right.
I'm saying to people, very simple. Just think about it from you being a human being, right?
Right.
And you have a job.
Yes.
You have a job.
Yes.
You got children to look after. And you have some people admire you for what you're doing.
Right.
So you got a status from it and you get a good lifestyle from it. How many of us would willing to give that up and go back on the street if that was the alternative? How many of us would give that up? So the point I'm saying is that the cancer industry, for things to change, is only the public is going to demand that change.
Right.
They're not going to change their
So we got to come together. I just want to say thank you for this text here. I will announce my contact details at the end of the show. I promise you. Thank you so much for listening. So that's excellent. I will promise to announce my information at the end of the show. And so with our lovely author and researcher here, Devon S.J. Morgan, who's written a book called Demystifying Cancer. Google it, check it out. It can be purchased from Amazon. And we will continue. Yes.
Yes, the only way the system is going to change, since they've been at it so long, and because they have shown so many signs of keeping out anything else from coming into play, because you can't get into that game if you're coming from not from their point of view,
right?
And even within that point of view, I'm sure that the major corporations that run things, they want to keep that thing to themselves,
right?
But they definitely, there's evidence where they're clamping down on anything to do with natural things. It's a business, and they've got power. Right, they got people that back them up, etc., etc.
In the book, you talk about the act.
You got America had the act. 1971, I think Nixon did the cancer act, or what they call it, and he declared that they should have a cure by 7 years or something. But clearly that never happened. But there was never any system put in place to monitor what they were doing.
Can I just read this text here? It said, thank you for the text. Thank you, Omega listener there, for the text. It said, should the cancer charities be doing their investigations about all that, what they take our money for?
Should
the cancer charities be doing their investigation after all the charities be doing these investigations? Should the cancer charity should they be investigating?
I think
what these guys are doing with our monies? Are they researching with it? What was it? Should they? Because these are very powerful questions you're raising there, and perhaps you've done this very good book here, Demystifying Cancer. Perhaps you ought to, you know what I mean? Start writing to the charities or getting them together.
The thing is, you have to understand, I said, this thing called self-interest. The cancer research organizations, they get a large sums of money.
Right.
We're talking hundreds of £1,000,000 in this country they get every year.
So it's a closed door in our face. I can hear a closed door coming up. Go for it.
They get hundreds of millions to do their research.
Right.
That is a business in
100 million a year.
Hundreds of millions.
Okay.
More than 100 million they get per year to do, and that they make from doing what they're doing. Now, they are doing research as to like I mentioned, Cancer Research UK did one in 2009 about, and they more or less came up with the same thing Dr. Warburg came up with, but even more extensive.
Right.
Because when they tried to, what they did was that they actually, so in 1924, Dr. Warburg showed that when the cell is denied oxygen, it becomes cancerous. They then admit that most of the time since then, what they used to do in terms of trying to treat cancer is to cut off the oxygen supply. It's all in a minute. Why would you be doing the very same thing that the man was saying? That caused the problem. And then they went on to say that what they decide to do now is to increase the oxygen supply in the cancer cells. And and then like magic, they notice the cancer cells start to react in a very positive way in terms of getting less, like getting softer then, let's put it that way, for want of a better phrase. And then so hence the headline, oxygen kills cancer. So it's all in a minute. But in 1924, Warburg gave the same basic argument. And then you are now admitting in 2009, which is how many years after 20? If you do the maths, it's a long time since 1924 by the time we get to 2009.
Yes.
They are now saying, well, now we've changed our approach by injecting the cancer cells with oxygen, and we notice that the cancer cells get softer. And then, but they conclude that, oh, well, we're going to use, it's more receptive to chemotherapy now.
Can I just say that call? That's great. May I? Hello? One minute. We're just excellent. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. Can you ask the question? Okay, thank you for calling in.
I'd like to ask Devon Morgan. I think he's excellent, but I'd just like to ask him a question. What if he could explain the relationship between the sun and skin cancer?
The relationship between the sun and skin cancer?
Yes. How does the sun give human beings skin cancer?
Well, based on my limited understanding of that.
Sorry, can I just pause there? I'm just going to come off the phone.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear it on the airways. Thank you very much.
Did you say sun and liver? Is that what?
Sun and cancer.
Right.
Skin cancer.
No, you want? Are you there?
He's coming off. He says he want to hear. He'll come off the ear and hear.
Right. He said skin and.
Skin cancer. The sun. The relationship between the sun and
so
skin cancer.
Right.
So I'm just saying, based on my limited understanding of that, because I never researched that as such. But since the basic thing has something to do with oxygen, so what happened is that if the sun, and typically skin cancer is more prevalent in people who don't have a lot of melanin. So which means that melanin makes the skin more resistant to the rays of the sun.
Yes.
Now, if the sun damages the skin, which means that it has damaged the cell. When cells are damaged, it means that the cell is not as functional as it used to be.
Yes.
Which means that it doesn't have the ability to utilize oxygen. So I go back to the same principle, because this is my theory now. Take that, bear that in mind, is my limited understanding of it. So the way I'm using the basic understanding of what the research, the clinical trials have shown about the lack of oxygen. So when the cells are burnt up by the sun, they would have become damaged and lose their ability to utilize oxygen. So if they lose their ability to utilize oxygen,
back to the same thing, isn't it?
They'll be back to the same thing where cancer is developed. And furthermore, the